Today I want to talk about Chris Robison. Yeah, remember him? And all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. So it's college football related, sports related. We have a good time today. I want to talk about former Oklahoma quarterback and now former FAU quarterback Chris Robison, who was removed from Florida Atlantic's football team earlier today. This segment is going up on a Tuesday. Happy Tuesday to you. Now, Robison was, suspended from team activities by Lane Kiffin last year, came back, and then put together one of the better seasons by a quarterback in college football. Not only did he lead Florida Atlantic to a Conference USA title, he had tremendous passing displays of, 300 yards or more with 3,700 yards passing, 28 touchdowns through the air for a Florida Atlantic team that was pretty doggone good. Lane Kiffin took the job at Ole Miss, and here comes Willie Taggart, and it doesn't take long for Willie Taggart to be like, enough of this. I got Willie Taggart Jr. back there ready to take snaps, because that's a real thing. Willie Taggart's kid is now his most capable quarterback on the roster to date. Now add to that, Peter Warrick's kid is going to play wide receiver. Michael Irvin's kid is going to play wide receiver. And Deion Sanders' kid has just committed to play quarterback in the 2021 class. So Florida Atlantic's got all the star power of the children. We might actually have like a NFL kind of college football, like showbiz kids. But for Robison, this is another really terrible mark in his career. Four-star quarterback out of Mesquite, Texas, who committed and signed with Oklahoma in the 2017 class. He was the second guy that Riley ever recruited to Oklahoma, following Austin Kendall. And then gets kicked off the team at Oklahoma, hence he ends up transferring to Florida Atlantic. And I thought that Robison showed some ability, right? Didn't look tremendously bad against the best defense he saw all year in Ohio State. And there was that really rocky game with Middle Tennessee State. But for the most part, thought maybe he might end up being a serviceable quarterback, maybe go undrafted in the upcoming NFL draft, and maybe make a team, right? A la Mason Fine. But turns out he just doesn't have the character, at least to stay through Florida Atlantic. So that's the second place he's been kicked off of. And I guess right now we're looking at where could he go? Because there's so many programs that, one, don't know if they're going to be able to play football. Two, have either moved football to, because let me come at this another way. Now, the only places that I think Chris Robison could go would be FCS teams. Many FCS teams are not planning to play football in the fall, to say nothing of how much money they're going to have for scholarships in the spring. Now, that said, 63 scholarships are available at the FCS level. 85 scholarships are available per team at the FBS level. That means that it might actually be a little bit more difficult for him to make an FCS roster than an FBS roster. And he might end up going the way of DeAndre Francois, who ended up going to Howard to play his football after being a top recruit to Florida State. And you saw how that goes. DeAndre Johnson, another dude that had a top recruit to Florida State, ends up at Florida Atlantic. And it looks like Willie Taggart is trying to continue the run that Florida Atlantic has kind of sort of been on, because you'll remember Florida Atlantic traveled to Oklahoma to play a ball game. We were all very excited about it. Lane Kiffin versus Lincoln Riley, 2018. It was going to be a lot of fun. Saw a little bit of Chris Robison. He threw a pick to Robert Barnes, who is now a dude that we expect to play a little bit more linebacker now that Caleb Kelly is a bit injured. Well, not a bit injured. He's a lot injured. He blew his ACL again. And I still have a hard time just putting that one together, because nobody deserves to go through what Caleb Kelly has gone through. But Robison has brought it on himself. Now, since we're talking about quarterbacks, I think it's also interesting to note here that Lincoln Riley's first two guys that he recruited out of high school have not turned out to be good players. One for Oklahoma, and have, outside of last year for Robison, weren't really good at all, right? Then add to that, Robison didn't do it in the Power 5 where he was projected to play. He did it in the Group of 5. at a Conference USA team that is now next to the Sun Belt on the totem pole. Might actually be behind the Sun Belt when we're ranking the conferences, with the American being first among group of 5 conferences in football now. Now we're into a point where Riley has to put out the quarterback that he recruited out of high school in the 2019 class, Spencer Rattler, before the fire. We're still waiting on Rattler. We're still waiting on Riley to produce a quarterback that he recruited out of high school that turns out to be good. Because the knock on him is Baker Mayfield was recruited, or didn't even recruit him. He wasn't recruited. He recruited himself. He showed up on Oklahoma's doorstep after playing outstandingly at Texas Tech, where he wasn't actually projected to start at all. Then basically forced Trevor Knight's hand into transferring, and not only did he take over the job, he won a Heisman Trophy, was a 2-time Heisman finalist, and took Oklahoma to a Rose Bowl and won Big 12 championships. Kyler Murray comes from Texas A&M after going in that class with Kyle Allen, or not that class, but going in with Kyle Allen. They split reps, they split time. It wasn't working. They said, "You want to play baseball too?" He said, "Sure." Puts together a Heisman Trophy winning season. So when you're really looking at Riley and you're looking at his resume, as good as he is, and he is very good, I say, does it matter that he didn't recruit a guy out of high school that's turned out to be good? No, because the results are the results, right? But in as far as legacy and in as far as development, perhaps he could do what so many other coaches would have wanted to do years before the transfer portal and the transfer rules have changed, in that you just go get a player that you see who has the ability to play Power 5 football, and you put him in your system and you coach him up. That's what he did with Jalen Hurts, who was backing up Tua Tagovailoa. He finished second in the Heisman balloting and led Oklahoma to the Peach Bowl and a Big 12 championship. Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, the same. So that's the knock right now. And with Robison continuing to spiral down, it's going to be out there. If you want to negatively recruit against Oklahoma using that, by all means, go right ahead. I don't think many people would care, because at that position, you got to be choosy. You got to know who you're getting. And he already showed that if he doesn't think that he has the guy on his roster that can start and play, he's going to go get somebody else. He did that with Austin Kendall. He kicked Chris Robison off the team, and we see Tanner Mordecai come in. Tanner Mordecai is sidelined right now. I think he's going to be fine for the season. But again, we're still waiting on Rattler to prove Riley basically doesn't have a fault. Because that's what we're doing now. We're nitpicking at who he has recruited versus who he hasn't recruited. And as much as there are good jokes to be made about Transfer U, what you cannot say is that Riley is not a great developer of quarterbacks once they get the starting job. Once they get the starting job, they turn out to be pretty good. 3 quarterbacks drafted in 3 consecutive drafts in the first or second round. The first head coach to ever pull that off in the Common Draft era, which dates back to 1969 when the AFL and the NFL merged. He's got receipts to show. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.